Choose your language. So you have on the bottom of your screen, you have a choice interpretation, and you can choose if you want to follow this first hour of the session in English or Ukrainian, and then have the whole lecture and all the talk in Ukrainian or English, as you prefer. Yeah, you're entering the official starting time. We have more than half of the participants, but still people flocking in. So don't know about Ukraine, but in the Netherlands, university have this. We call that academic quarterly, which is like 15 minutes that everything starts later. We plan not to do this this way. I think also COVID or Corona made a lot of changes there. So people are actually now much more on time than we used to. So all these meetings suddenly start on time, which is also nice. So we plan to do that with this one as well. Let's wait now for, okay, so our leeway is 2 minutes, let's say. Welcome, welcome. We are flocking up. It's also the first time everybody has to connect a bit. So nice to see so many faces. Lisa, one of our team members, started to share a presentation which I would like to dig into now for the introduction, which is this. So the project is called Fundamentals of Urbanism, a program for the recovery of the country. And how we put it in the beginning is that the program aims to provide Ukrainian architects, planners, urbanists, engineers, but also specialists in related fields who are already working very often in urban areas or urban planning, with some expertise, extra expertise, which is necessary for designing sustainable spatial solutions in those interdisciplinary teams, also for this level of disruption that Ukraine has at this moment, which is not an easy task, and not a knowledge that is commonly found in pocketbooks or training books. So we hope to dig in also those special circumstances, but at the same time bring also knowledge from Europe, from the US, from other places, some state of the art, some newest. And as you can imagine, in 13 weeks, it's a 13-week online training in the beginning, we can never go in real depth. So what we will give is an overview of things. We hope to bring a lot of hints, a lot of things that you can choose from and dig into yourself. So we provide also reading lists in which you can dig further and deepen your knowledge on certain aspects, because you will all be working in very different environments and on different themes and subjects. So we hope to give a lot of input so you can grab for yourself what sticks to you the most. Indeed, in this program, which is in 3 parts, it's the online training of 13 weeks. It is an offline workshops for about 30 participants, 3 to 4 days next year in somewhere in Ukraine, probably in Kiev or in Lviv. And then internships for ones who are interested in that. That's why we asked you in your application. Can you go to the next slide, please? For the next slide, Lisa, is that possible? Or is it stuck? It looks stuck. It is. The team. Margot Didichenko. She is not here. She's on a holiday, but you will see her later on. She is the lead within Roskvit of all capacity building programs and also helping shaping this one and also having a close look on maybe follow-ups for this and other programs. I am Lilet Breddels, as you see also on the screen in my name. I'm the project lead for this project, which is also, I am from the Netherlands, and it is also funded by the Netherlands, this program. Fulco Treffers is also on the screen. Maybe you have to wave a little bit also to see you. He is curator of two of the blogs, Urbanism and People, and he is also the director of Roskvit. Then Nathan Hudson, very glad that you could quickly step in to say hello, Nathan. You will see him as the curator of movement, the second block, the second module of this course. And Elena Arhipovaite, curator of Matter, the last block, who couldn't be here. She is in a lecture at the moment. Then we have the mentors who are working with you in the 2 hours after the lecture sessions. For the young professionals, it's Tetjana Samilev. Maybe you could also wave your hand. Then we have the curators mentoring the experienced professionals, so it's the ones I just mentioned, and I will be with the professionals in related disciplines. Our project coordinator, she is now behind the Roskvit screen and managing us all, is Lisa Korosheva. And the translator you hear, Olena Nevjodova. Thank you so much for doing this incredible job. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the online version probably takes always a bit. So for this course, for the online, we had 170 applications, many more than we expected. 33, 35 respectively, 102 in the 3 different groups. We were supposed to select 40 to 60 people, but because we're so many were there, we went a little bit over our own maximum and have 64 now. So we are really happy with that. And also, really, this is a kind of responsibility also for you to please attend all the sessions, because it's we disappointed 110 people, which was not nice to do, of course. So please be there. We will provide in the end, of course, this opportunity also for the offline workshop, but also you will receive a certificate. We do expect you to be all the sessions there. If not, if you're ill, please tell it to your mentor or to Lisa. Mention it to us that you can't be there because you're ill or something urgent otherwise happens, and be there at least 9 out of the 12 times, but preferably, of course, all 12 to be eligible also for those other parts of the program, and to be kind indeed to your fellows. And then next slide, please. Which is a repetition basically of the 4 different modules that you heard about. So maybe go to the next. These are all, of course, provided in the Notion board that you have all received. The Notion board is your guide towards. Go to the next, please. Your guide towards the whole program is this Notion link. So if you don't have it, put it in the chat and we will provide you with it. It is your place to go to the different elements of the program. It is all your links to all the different sessions. It's everything you need to know about this program. And the commissions will be there, the input from the lectures. It will be updated all the time because you have now mostly the information about this first module, but the second and the second will come. So each session has an input from a lecturer, about 45 minutes plus a Q&A in the whole group that we are now. Then we split in the 3 groups, in the 3 breakout rooms, and do different things there. We will discuss the lecture input, discuss the readings that were being given to you to choose from. We will discuss the assignment progress on the Sigma board that you will all have access to, and work on them sometimes in smaller groups, sometimes as a whole group, or just individually. And we will have group discussions on that progress, and you will get a small assignment for each week. The assignment is not like you need to spend hours, but it's around a max of 2 hours a week, unless you want to spend a lot of more time, of course, which you are very welcome to do so. But it's not a big task that we will put to people who are sometimes in full-time jobs or other studies. I think that was about it that I wanted to tell as an introduction, and then we can quickly go to our first session. That is led by Fulco Treffers, who I introduced already. He is, as I said, director of Mosquit and urbanist already for years in the Netherlands and since 2015 in Ukraine, and working there on different aspects and in especially also very different places in the country. So he has a very broad overview of necessities and needs. Please, Fulco, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. It's kind of challenging to see so many very, very smart people in front of me, and like almost moving towards me, like, okay, you can tell me now, what is it all about, these fundamentals? And I would love to, and I hope I can, of course, I can give some kind of intro, because that is what today is going to be. It's going to be like a basement for some people already partly known, for some maybe not, but at least a basement of how I look at urban planning, urban recovery planning, and that probably others in the next weeks, months will also refer to. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here with you. It's special to after those 10 years of working in Ukraine, that you all were so with so many of you interested in following this, hearing our stories, and I think it also it somehow supports the urgency of what also Roscrete tries to do, what other organizations like Roscrete like to do. So this is all it feels very warm, and that's also how I'm gonna just enter this presentation. If you have the opportunity to turn on your camera, that is always nicer for people like us, because then you see what sparks something, where somebody starts laughing or maybe even turning away. If not, if for some reasons, connection, other things you do, you cannot, I understand, but it makes the interaction for us much easier. Thank you so much. And don't mind if you then suddenly start yawning. That's part of the deal. Or if you start crying, it's part of the deal. But it's just nicer to see already so many new faces. Okay, yeah. I'll just share the screen. And that's like this. The program of today, presentation and a Q&A, the three group discussions in parallel, and we come back with some final thoughts and next steps. Lilith also shared this. The topic is principles of urban integrated urban planning and design, urban design in Ukraine. What is the difference between those words? What is it specifically about in Ukraine? We will touch all these topics and it will go fast. I can promise you that. So first of all, the open question, what is it actually, this urban design? And I just asked Google, maybe I should have asked ChatGPT things as well, but I just, in this case, asked Google. The funny thing is, when you look at those pictures, you see this screen with the pictures, right? With the maps, just to check if you see my screen. Yeah, perfect. You see all those beautiful maps, and you see those 3D renderings or some visuals, very often from bird viewpoints. And yeah, this is what people expect. This is when you think about urban designers, there's the guys and the girls that make those models on a large scale with many white blocks. That's what they do. And then I started thinking, okay, what is integrated urban design? Same question, same Google, and it was a little bit different, but still pretty much the same. But it already, you could see some people here and there, some cars. You saw some more green. You saw also integrated urban design. You see some more pictures that are referring from what we call the eye level view, just a walkable view when you are on the street. But still, yeah, it's still very much block architecture, structure related. And that makes sense. I mean, in a way, it's also what we do. But I went a little bit further. I asked some definitions, and this is the definition that kind of explains what we do, but then what does it mean? Okay, it refers to a holistic and collaborative approach to shaping cities, towns, neighborhoods, various elements of urban life like architecture, landscape, transport, infrastructure, environment, social, everything planned and designed together to create functional, sustainable, and livable urban spaces. Olena, I hope you have been able to translate it all, yes? Well, those key aspects, interdisciplinary, land use, sustainability, human-centered, well, it's all here. But very important are these three words. All parts of the city, they work together to support this high quality of life for the inhabitants. All parts of the city, that is quite a lot. And I see quite a few interesting challenges there because all parts of the city in all scales, from the traffic lights to the environment around the city, or maybe the whole area, all those thousands of people. Is it all those people, all the businesses, all the decision makers that are somehow involved? Is that also part of all the city? And maybe what it makes it even more complicated is that those global changes that we have, and Ukrainians know it better than anyone else, the global changes that we have, you feel them only on the local level. You don't feel them when they're on television or on your mobile phone. You don't feel them when you talk about diagrams. You feel them in your own street. What about what happens with all those global changes in migration, in the prices of the economy, in the prices of houses? You feel them when you talk about climate change and the changes of weather and et cetera, et cetera. So things that are happening on a scale, on a global scale, that you can hardly influence, you have to deal with on a local scale. And that is our job. So we are responsible for all this, like all those things, and we are not responsible for the source. We very often cannot really take it to the bone and to say, okay, but let's not make the solution, but let's go to the source. No, we have to always think of something in the end. And we as urban planners, what we can do, I'm gonna try to give you some insights of that. So we deal with the unpredictability of what happens globally or the uncertainty on this. It's unmanageable skills and people, and we try to contain everything. Do you still like it? How many people are still here? Are we still in? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because actually that is also so fascinating. We can. It's not only that we have to, but we are somehow able to. This is Kampala, Uganda, but it could be many places around the world where you see that all those choices that a city makes, or all those choices that individual people make or businesses make, they will be reflected somehow in an urban design or in an urban space about transport, but about advertisement you see here, about the quality of materials, the maintenance, about the pavement, the public space, whether you have trees or not, in this case not. And you can imagine this is Africa, so it will be very hot, so there's no shade over there. There's a lot of air pollution because of all those small vans which are public transport. And then there's also the sound, the constant sound. Everything is related to urban planning. Even on the picture it looks like crazy, but if you're there in the middle of it, it's even more complicated. And we can deal with that. We can make it more relaxed. We can make it more easy to find your way. We can make it more green. We can make it more healthy. We can make it more comfortable to put some benches. All of that here is not done, but it's a choice. It's a choice of design. It's a choice of priority, and it's a choice of values and what quality of life you can give. I don't blame the people in Kampala because sometimes it's difficult. But as an urban planner, I would advise to look at all those aspects. And then we have also the Ukrainian reality that makes it even harder. So it's not just about urban planning, and I will get back to that a couple of times in this presentation, because the Ukrainian reality asks for even different tools, different values, different questions. Don't have to tell you that. This is where we are now, and this is making our job not easier. So as an urban planner and urban designer, how to work, how to structure, how to prioritize, how to choose what we recommend, what we propose. Usually we are advisors, we are consultants for the municipality, for the oblast, for a developer. But we advise based on structures and analysis, based on visions. We analyze spatially, always spatially. It is always some space element in that, square meters, cubic meters, heights, sizes, but also sound, also smell. Very important, also activities. What are you going to do there? It's also about feeling for different target groups, about identity of a place, and for ecology. So which goes much further than just human beings to feel comfortable, but like the whole ecosystem is that place as well. Of course, you can make this list much longer, but I want to show you the variety and of our challenges and also of our tools, because if you turn it around, if you analyze this, these are directly also the first start of a small toolbox that we can build. What different approaches can we have? What different visions can we make on what all those different elements can we use to make the place, for example, in Kampala, a little bit better? And we have a set of different elements that we usually use in our work as urban planners. And the main one is using urban layers. So it's when I talk to, let's say, general people, I always say urban topics. We use different urban topics and we split them up. But as a professional, we use very often the word urban layers. And that looks like that. You split the map that you saw here, you split it up in different layers. And that is not the layer of this is about housing and this is about industry and this is about schools. No, it's the different layers of the system of a city. So there is a layer of ground, of soil, what happens underground, maybe pipes. There's a layer of water, and there's a layer of trees, and or plants and everything ecology. There can be a layer of all things that have to do with transport and mobility. You can split these layers up again. So they only take the cars and you split them up in another layer for public transport and split them up in another layer for bicycles and pedestrians. But those are layers. And then the next layer could be the functions, education, or the function of house, living, or the function of shopping or leisure or sports, which is not exactly the same, but very often connected to the layer of buildings. So, but the buildings, I tend to try to put them in another layer because the buildings are changing functions very often. So the one building is now a hospital, can be later something else. The building that is now a factory can later be something else. So we use different layers and we split it up and we analyze everything. What is there? What is the existing situation? And it goes up until the air. What is happening in the air? Is it polluted? Is it maybe Wi-Fi connections? Maybe where are the areas where the airport is and there is some extra protection zone? Maybe in the air there is issues about where drones are allowed to fly or not in normal situations, of course. So in every one of those layers, you have a set of rules, you have a set of existing situation, you have maybe a knowledge that there might be something there when it's underground. You have maybe owners of buildings, you have maybe wish lists for specific layers. So maybe the layer of sports has a lot of new wishes, and all those different layers we try to analyze and structurize. And then we need to connect them. And that is the fun part. That is where the integrated word comes in. That's when you try to make the best out of different goals, out of different topics. Then you see that, for example, what is going on in a city, in the water, and what is going on in buildings, if you connect it smartly, that you can optimize it, that you can combine different goals, and that you don't see them as separate sectoral arguments, but you see them as a holistic system. That's something that some people, they will learn it by time, by practicing. And of course, a whole city of Kiev is very complicated. But when you practice this in a smaller scale, then it works. We are going to practice on the city of Nizhyn. So there, on that scale, we are trying, I think we will start trying to do this exercise to see if we have different layers, we have the material, and where do you see connection possibilities, where you can optimize. And what this optimizing needs is to understand, okay, if you spend money to invest in some building here or to invest in some solution for some of those layers, will it also be helpful for other questions that we're having, for other challenges that we're having, maybe in other layers? So that is what I constantly do when I'm matching those layers and I'm trying to optimize different values and different approaches and different needs. And that's the word needs. And because next to those layers, we always try to find, so the layers are quite exact. This is as far as we understand what we have. And it shows the city in a different picture. But the DNA and the needs and the goals is something more untangible. It's something more abstract. So the DNA is something every city for me, or as every village, even every neighborhood sometimes even has a DNA. And DNA is what you and I have in our bodies, what is specifically us. And of course, some people are looking alike. Some cities are also looking alike, some neighborhoods also. But there's also always something specific for the city of Amsterdam, or for the city of Kiev, or the city of Vinnytsia. Everybody has some picture in their head which reflects that DNA. Can you capture that DNA in words, in some kind of collage, in some kind of yeah, I think usually that's what I do in collages or words or pictures or diagrams, to understand, okay, this is what is going on in sentimental or psychological point of view. And this is maybe where the city wants to go. It wants to become safer, or it wants to become more friendly, or it wants to become softer. There is this beautiful book, Soft City now. I think it's also in our reading list. If not, then I'll add it. Soft city. What does it mean? So the DNA of becoming a soft city or a soft neighborhood or a soft park. What is different between a soft and a hard city? How can you use that as a design? This DNA is something which is usually you talk about it for hours with people from the city as an external expert, or you just try to find the right word. And it can be a little bit poetic as well. It can be a little bit not precise. That is good. The needs and the goals are much more precise. When you talk about needs, that is like the analysis of, okay, here we have an understanding what are the biggest needs. Is it about housing? Is it about economy? Is it about water? Is it about technology? You have to describe them well. You usually bring those three elements in the beginning of a project. In the beginning of a project is about urban planning. You don't do that alone. This is impossible. It's impossible. You're just a consultant. I'm just a consultant. I always feel very humble. If I don't use all the stakeholders as much as possible, then I'm sure that I miss something. So you use sometimes a lot, sometimes less, depends a little bit on the project, on the goal of the project, but you use the environment of people in a place. Internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and you start talking to them and knowing them and understanding them. These are real people that you can really interview, that you can really ask, what is your neighborhood about? What is your feeling about? If you want to, you just arrived in this city after living in another city for 20 years. What was your first impression? Those questions, they give you an understanding of what this city is about. Oh, but the other one that you can speak to lives already in that city for 30 years, all his life. Why did he stay? What is the importance for him or her in this city? All those talks give you little fragments, elements of the identity, the DNA, the feeling, but also the needs of the city. They won't make maps for you with all the layers. They will make feelings for you. They give you an understanding of the city. So for me, integrated urban design is in 3 steps: to involve the stakeholders, to use them and your own knowledge to define the overall DNA, the needs and the goals, and to make the layer analysis. And these things usually go a little bit in parallel. In a new small project, it takes like 1 or 2 months. In a bigger one, it takes longer to understand, okay, this is the first steps. And then, I don't know why it says 1, but it should be 4. Then you start combining those elements, combining them, and then you discuss them, you redesign, you optimize, and you go again and again and again to find what is the essence of your solution. Because there's always a problem and a solution that you bring. In this, this has been described in a few beautiful documents that I would love you to check out. And the new Leipzig Charter is like a brochure that has been. There was this Leipzig approach of building a city, but I think 4 years ago they made this like a formal advisory charter approach in urban planning in Europe, European Union. It says beautifully, much better than I just did, what urban planning and neighborhood planning and city planning should look like. What elements to use, what to approach. Not saying that all cities must be the same or that all villages must be the same, but to understand, okay, these are the elements that we think in Europe at least, but I think in wider perspective as well. These are valuable elements that you should introduce in your work. The second one is the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals are defined by the United Nations, and these are 17 goals, and out of these 17 goals, there's usually in your projects, there's very beautiful links to those goals. Those goals also include education for everybody, or they include water for everybody. Things that at this moment Ukraine has already covered. I mean, I would say that is basically there. But the Sustainable Development Goals, every country, every city has new challenges that can be linked to those goals. And why is this interesting? Because when you link them to those overall goals, they are very often used by international donors, international developers, international grant givers that somehow use these goals as that's why we want to support Ukraine. That's why we want to support this city. So those sustainable development goals, to understand them, to know them, which can be used in city planning, it helps the municipality or the oblast or maybe even the country to link possible bigger programs that are going around in the world to the Ukrainian context. And the last one is about New European Bauhaus. New European Bauhaus is an organization, or I would call it a ministry of the European Commission. And they have what they call the soul of the European Union. They want to capture that. And they do it by using three words: beautiful, together, and sustainable. Those three words together are the main values of the new European Bauhaus. There's a lot of more documentation behind that. All those words are explained, there's many overlaps between them. But we feel that in our urban planning, those three words make also a lot of sense. We want to make something beautiful and comfortable. We want to make something sustainable, not only nice for now and next year, but sustainable for more than one generation. And we want to make something that we make together, because that is the way how we do it. We do it for the people and with the people. This all looks very nice, those three things. But when we started Roskvit 3.5 years ago, we felt that something was missing. And that is actually the fact that there is a war in Ukraine. Because the Leipzig Charter and the Sustainable Development Goals and also the new European Bauhaus values, they are, I would say, there are lists of things to work on, to work with, that somehow do not always work in Ukraine. They are not enough. So they're very good, but it is not enough. And we found out that in times of war, the layers are maybe more in Ukraine. For example, when we were asking people in Mariupol or in Dnipro or pretty much every place, or IDPs, refugees that we asked to come back, what do I need now the most? They say, I want to have a house, I want to have a job, and I want to make sure that it's safe where I'm returning or where I'm staying. Safety, housing, economy. It's always the top three. And is this topic of safety enough embedded in this in these layers, in these Leipzig Charter? Or I'm not sure. Is housing enough embedded there? Well, in Ukraine, there is this complicated topic of not having the social housing corporation, and the law, the legislation is not deep enough. So we are working on those things. And the interesting thing is, when we ask, what do we miss? Then very often it's a different question. It's not we miss safety, we miss housing. No, what they miss is very often related to, the answers are very often related to nature, to culture, and to social aspects, to people. And that is not all. It's also about what is needed now is the topic of inclusivity, accessibility. It's higher and higher on the agenda, of course, in Ukraine, with all the injured people, with all the lack of good supportive public spaces or buildings. The topic of migration and how to plan migration, how to organize migration, and all the municipalities, they all want to have all the people back and more. So they're all thinking in growth. Is that the thing? The integration of IDPs, the internally displaced people in cities where they now live, and they are somehow supported and somehow both supported and not at all. There is a huge social issue there as well. the mental security and safety as well. Do I feel safe in the place where I am? Not only when there's an air alarm, but in general, is the mental safety secured? And again, inclusivity and accessibility. That was double. And when I put it in very, very general words, there is all those aspects that you put in technically about that you can build, about what you can finance, about what you can calculate in terms of mobility, or you can count enough buses or trains, or everything that you can calculate in terms of climate and energy. And it's needed. It's critical that it's there, that it's going, that it's functioning. And there is the second aspect, the social aspect, and that is often not only in Ukraine, but absolutely also in Ukraine, that aspect is usually underdeveloped. And it's more difficult to grasp. You cannot put exact numbers to it. But what is the social aspect of a neighborhood? Do people talk? Do they feel safe? Do they feel somehow connected? Do they build something? Do they feel comfortable? Those aspects are more and more needed for the Ukrainian urban planning agenda. That is our goal. That is what we believe in, and it's also what the Leipzig Charter and the development goals and the new European powers all say. Please don't only look at the technical part, but include the social aspects. In all this, there is one key word, and that is uncertainty. As an example, only one example, but when even the existence of the geographical location of a place is not fully secured, so then what can we plan? And what we mean by that, we've been talking to municipalities that wanted to have like an urban plan for location they haven't visited anymore for 2 years. They wanted to, they were occupied, they are probably burned down to the ground. What is then what we can plan? Or it's so close to the front line that we don't know if it makes sense to make a master plan or a general plan or integrated development plan, or they are so close to Belarus or Russia. But then what can we do? How do we deal with this uncertainty? How do we deal with the uncertainty? How many people who are now living in Ivano-Frankivsk, were not living there 5 years ago? Will they stay? Will they stay after the war is over? Whatever that means. Will they return to their previous home? Will they return to another? Will they move to another place? Those numbers are so uncertain, we can hardly predict them. And that means if you don't know how many people want to live in Ivano-Frankivsk in 5 or 10 years, how can you ever plan as an urban planner? And we've been asking ourselves this question many, many times. Does it make sense? And yeah, actually, I think it does. I want to give 2 examples, and this is definitely also interesting for further discussion amongst you, with others as well, with me. There is this one project that we did about Mariupol. It was started in summer 2022. I was already in Mariupol for several times. I did my first Ukrainian project about Mariupol 10 years ago. And that's how I knew the people there. And I asked them, can we somehow help? Can we think of something? We are not able to fight, but we are able to think of the future of your city. And I won't tell you all, you can read it on the website. But the thing about uncertainty, we started thinking about different scenarios of how many people would return. So our assumption was that it would be liberated again. Let's put it, it's not like we were planning something for the city in the occupied territory, but that it would at a certain moment be liberated again. And even we didn't know if there would be new buildings from Russian side, if they would demolish everything which was partly left. We had no clue, but we were thinking, okay, what if we can return, and what will we do? And we started discussing what are then the main topics and what do we have? We don't know how many people will return. So we made different scenarios for different scales of the city. The scale of the city of 50,000 people, 100,000, 300,000, 400,000. So we made scenarios for different sizes. And we also think that one scenario could lead to another scenario. That was very uncertain, and it leads to, okay, also for different solutions in time. But the most important was that we knew and we found out there's some things will never change. The sea is there. There are two rivers there. There are some hills. There are some nature around it. There's something in the ground, polluted ground very often, but not always. There's things in the ground. There is fundaments of old ruins. There is history. There is memories. And actually, there were quite a few things there which we could start building on. Just a second. So even with all those uncertainties about size, scale, how the people would return, how many people would return, how they would be invited, we could use some elements that we could build on. And from that point, we started working, using different skills. And then we started using the most beautiful elements of that. So actually, the fact it's so obvious the sea is there, but in the existing plan for Mariupol, they hardly used the sea. There was only a beach, a small beach that they used. But a large part of the relationship between the city and the sea was never used. So actually, whatever we thought, it was so obvious, so normal, it was not done before. So if you just peel it off, everything that you have, and you see what is the basic existence, then you often see there's something relevant at place. And a little bit shorter, the example about Zaporizhia, you could say something similar. Khortytsa Island will always be there. Dnipro River will always be there. We know that it will be there will always be some kind of historical identity background of Ukraine there. Some Cossacks. There will be maybe not all, but there will be some historical buildings. So in any kind of way, we have a basic structure in Zaporizhia that we can use. And of course, at this moment, we are not sure how many people there will be, but at this moment, it's a free city. It's close to the front line, and we also know it changed in terms of, okay, one of the scenario is that it stays close to the front line, so it will be some kind of military hub. So there will be many soldiers, maybe for many decades. So there will be many other economic perspectives in the future. So we started thinking of what we can plan with the things that we knew how the world has changed. And that is the approach that I believe in, and it gives you some kind of urgency. It's not always nice. It's difficult topics to talk about bombed cities. It's difficult topics to think about all the destruction, but it's the thing that can also is where you can start thinking about building on top of that. And using that word start, where to start, how to start. I mean, I just started my presentation with slides, but what are the steps? I'm sorry, I'm not gonna give all those answers. We have to find out together, but I can give you some ideas. What we usually do, what I used to do, but you have to keep those challenges in your back of your mind. These were the same from the beginning of the presentation: the unpredictability, the uncertainty, unmanageability. Okay, but let's get to some recommendations. So where to start? Recommendations. One, connect short-term and long-term. This word connect you will see pretty much in every slide, in every recommendation, short-term and long-term, because people tend to want to choose. Is it urgent now to make a map for over 10 for 10 years from now? Does it make sense? Is it helpful? Yes, if you connect it to the urgent needs right now. So if you can somehow think as a planner, as a designer, as a strategist, how something that you will predict for a long-term future can already be relevant now, or the other way around. If what you do now has a long-term impact for a wider perspective of the city. That is the link number one, the connection number one. And very often it is seen as urgent problem solving in the one hand, so it's a little bit the same as short term, and value creation on the long term. So you look at the long-term value creation and how urgent problem solving is there. Why is this so important? If you only think of problem solving here, right now, it might block the long-term value creation and even lower the value in the long term. There's many examples of that all around the world where a war or where a tragedy like an earthquake or something, they led to very fast, urgent decisions and solutions that then were standing in the way for years and years and years, and nothing could happen. Or they demolished like this beautiful historical building because there was a risk that there was no money at that moment, and there was some new plans, and suddenly the whole identity of the long term of the city was gone. Those examples are numerous. So try to connect what you have as a problem here and now and the long-term value creation. Connect the technical and social measures. I already explained that in the previous one. There's many different ways, but I group them in two different spheres. But if you can connect them, it makes it even more valuable. So that could mean that you try to include some energy solutions, but you will use that also as economic development and job creation, and then it solves also some social issues. If you can think of programs or projects that connect those two, then you're going forward. It is not always possible to place that on a map or something. I think urban planning goes far beyond making a map or a 3D model. You've seen it by now. Those beginning pictures is not what I feel that urban planning is about. It's about connecting all those issues of those people inside those blocks, connecting all those aspects like technical and social measures. Connecting people and places with it. So we talk about a place, about a park, about a square. What does it actually mean if there's no people there, if there's no people taking care of it? The best places in Ukraine, I know that are places where people themselves who lived around it were involved in designing it, in maintenance, and they were actually asking for that square or for that improvement, and then they take care of it. So if you can really connect people, places on different scales, that is usually when it has a longer sustainable solution. Can be on anything. It can be on public space, but it can also be on buildings. It can be on facades. It can be the artwork on a wall. It can be the small path towards the river. If you use the people in decision making and maybe joining together in celebrating that it's done, people take care of it more. Connect the different scales, the project skills, for example, a neighborhood and a larger area. I still have to get used to it, to be honest, although I'm already for so many years in Ukraine, that very often the planners or the people on the municipality, when they look at the project, they just look only at that project. And they put a boundary around it, and that's it. When I look at the master plan of a general plan of a city, it's just that plan, and around it it's white. The paper is white. But the reality is not white. There is something there. There's a village there. There's another Romada there. There's decisions there. There's people there. And how to connect them to your responsibility. Maybe it's not where you're legally responsible for, but that doesn't mean that you cannot improve the quality of life of your neighbors or yourself when you connect with that. So I strongly believe in putting your own project in a context and that leads to solutions that at this moment very often cannot be found, but it needs some kind of cultural change in the country. Next to that, looking outside your context, you have to zoom in and zoom out. Take a little bit step back and look at it again, what you're doing. Is it still relevant? Is it the most important? Does it make sense? Does it, can I do something smarter? Zoom in, zoom out. Constantly do that when you're working on a project. We're getting to the end, not final yet, but we're getting closer to the end. Connect words and pictures. By pictures, I mean maps, diagrams, photos, so anything visual. Connect them to words. Some people think in words, some people think in pictures. And when you can somehow organize that they become one, that they become included in one story, in one narrative, is like a difficult word, then it becomes interesting. For example, there is this word apple, and this is interesting scientific theory. There's many ways how people see an apple. When they hear the word apple, some people see nothing, like number 5. They really see, they cannot visualize themselves an apple. It's not a large group, but there are people so us as urban planners or designers or architects or developers, if we just think we say something is an apple, they have no clue what you mean, how it will look like. Or if something is like going to be like a concrete church, they have no clue. Others will see this, but there's many, the majority has something like 2, 3, or 4. And that is good to know, that you always have to use both, because if you only show the one apple, sometimes you're not ready to show the full apple. Maybe you're not sure if it's 1 or 2 apples. Maybe you're not sure if it's a red or a green apple. So you're not fully there yet. But be aware that everything that you do, that you have to find a balance between words and pictures. And like I said, picture can be a map, can be a photograph or a diagram. And then you can use your skills. I will get back to that, I think, in the next one as well. One of our most important skills is that we can visualize. We can show to those people, I mean an apple, but something like this apple, not just an apple. I mean a black apple with stripes and I don't know. So you have to use that skill, and you have to develop that skill. It can be drawing, it can be otherwise, it can be making maps, it can be rendering, it can be sketching, whatever. And then try to connect to the process and the content. And what I mean by that is most of the time I make scenarios, not only one solution. And although the client or the municipality or the mayor or the whatever, your father or mother asks for this one solution, first you make scenarios. Why? Why do I make scenarios? Because I don't believe that, first of all, I'm smart enough to know the best solution from the start. That is one thing. And second, because when I make scenarios, I show to the client that there are different options. And maybe by showing the different options, somebody wants to rephrase the question that he originally asked. Oh, looking at this now, I think I asked for a building and a statue and a bench, but maybe looking at this, I need 2 benches and no statue at all. We should place it somewhere else. And the building should be whatever, 2-sided or something. They're going to specify more what they want. And also they understand by looking at it, oh, I like this about scenario 1, I like this about scenario 3, and scenario 2, not really. And then you ask, why? Can you tell me more? Why don't you like scenario 2? And you get a lot of new information about what clients want, but also you can show the scenarios also to people in the street, to the participatory process, to the other stakeholders, and you just get information. Why is one scenario, one possible solution good, and why not? And is there a lot of difference between the different stakeholders in this? The scenarios, you must be careful, don't overdo it. Make not too detailed ones. You do it based on the level of detail where you are in the process. And step by step, you can detail more, but of course, you fix parts of the things during the process. But I believe strongly in scenarios. It's really, really helpful. It's helpful for you as a designer, and it's helpful for them as understanding the different possibilities. So, integrated urban design, involving stakeholders, DNA, needs, goals, layers, combine, redesign. It's urgent, it's complex with a 3, I don't know, but most of all, it supports the quality of life. I believe that all those elements that I just showed, we should do it now. We should work on that now. It helps Ukraine right now. Not in the typical way that the Leipzig Charter is about, don't get me wrong again, but in even smarter ways to include safety and security, to include all those topics of migration, of social insecurity, or mental safety, mental health, on sustainability, and all of it to support the quality of the Ukrainians who are in the country. That's the first intro. Lilette, how do the Q&A, how does it work? I'm glad I see some hearts and some thumbs up. So that is already a good...
Thanks, Fulco. Thanks a lot. It works by stop the share and people raise hands and open their mics and ask a question.
I think let's do it like for 10 minutes. If we can, of course, stay together for 2 hours, but let's do a few questions, collect a few. I will answer a few. And then we break up and go deeper in some of the topics anyway, right? So
Yeah.
just
But
for some first feelings and questions that we have. Yeah. Who?
Anyone?
Always the most difficult. Who's the first?
Such a wide perspective, broad overview, which is really nice.
Tatiana. Tatiana, go ahead.
Доброго дня, доброго вечора. Я представляю місто Чорноморськ Одеського регіону. Це місто біля Чорного моря. Воно відомо як великий порт. Наразі під час війни це зернові ворота нашої держави. І в мене таке питання. Чи враховуєте ви в своїх шарах промислове забруднення і так звані санітарно-захисні зони, які забезпечують цей коридор безпеки для мешканців?
I will collect a few more questions and then I'll group them as an answer. Maybe that's the easiest. Swati.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Swati. Thank you so much for the presentation. So my question comes after your statement, which said make multiple scenarios. Usually when you make multiple scenarios, there's a lot of discussion with the stakeholders, with the client. So how do you find the fine balance between making multiple scenarios and coming to a solution? Because it's time consuming.
Yes. Understandable question. Really good. Yes. Other questions now? In the meantime, I will answer, and then maybe more questions will come into your mind. Yes, Tatiana, about the layers. Yeah, definitely we include the ecological pollution in those layers if we have the information. So it's not always available. Not everybody likes it, but this is the part of what we say which is in the ground. So this soil pollution is one of the things that we can show, and it's I think about 3-4 different things that the layer of the soil should have. It's the pollution, it's maybe archaeology, so like historical remnants in the ground. It can also be pipes, communication lines. So do you know where your techniques are in the ground? It's usually the first 1 or 2 meters. A very difficult one is buried people, and especially in wartime, and especially in the front line. I know that I know it from experience by Mariupol, that there were places where unofficially people were buried in parks because their family could not reach the cemetery at that moment, or there were people just lying on the ground. So this is a very, very, very difficult topic to have as well. But we can, how difficult it might be, we can put it on a map. It's information that we can find if we dig deep, if we ask around. And what often is placed in the ground is biodiversity. So the small quality of ecological life. So there's the pollution on one side and the biodiversity on the other hand. So those are, for example, the main important examples of what we include in the underground layers. Maybe some specific cities have more tunnels, industry, mines, those kind of things as well. Yeah. So in a way, we can always make maps. That is very, very interesting. We can always make those maps. And even if you don't have the exact information, you can, with limited sources, calculate, measure some of those most important elements as well. It's better to show something than nothing, even if you're not 100% sure. Swati, about multiple scenarios. We have a whole module about this topic, so that is the easy answer. It's about people and about participation. Module 3 is about that. What I think is that it's time consuming, but it's also time rewarding. So it saves me usually a lot of time to show the scenarios. I get feedback and I hear so much more because of that than all the research I could have done from books or from internet or by talking to the official client or something. So you hear so much more about a neighborhood or a place or a park or a street, or that it is often not that time consuming as people might think. And then how to balance that, different opinions. In 8 out of 10 of the projects, the opinions are not that different. In some of it, they are. And then you have to be totally transparent. And then you have the dialogue that you can better have then during your design process than afterwards when it's about getting a permit. So module 3 will be more about this, but it's a good question.
Borislav?
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me? In the third advice, you bound social measures with technical items. Could you specify whether it could be social measures like some rough marks, or it's more about quality sphere, what it could be?
Solomia, let's continue with questions and I'll get back to you, Borislav. Good question.
Salome, your mic is not on, or we don't hear you. It looks your mic is on, but still I don't hear you. So maybe you fix something and then we do Dominique first, then you try to connect.
Yeah, thanks, Fulco, for the interesting introduction. You mentioned that we plan for the people with the people. I wonder how to include the perspectives of all the people that have left the place and maybe gone to A, B, and C places in Ukraine, but also, I don't know, other places in Europe, how to make sure that their perspectives are included.
Very important as well.
Thank you for this question. Yes, perfect.
Vladislav, and maybe Salome, you can also put it in the chat if it's not working. Vladislav?
Yeah, I would like to ask more about those 3 types of documents that we have. Is it required by the European Union that you should follow somehow strictly on a governmental level, or it's more as additional soft instruments for the urban planning management, those of sustainable goals, also the Leipzig Charity, and also the third one was
The new European Bauhaus. Yeah, a good
yeah,
question.
European
Thank you. I should have
Bauhaus. Yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
And if we are, for example, in Ukraine, it will be for us somehow required only because, as I understand right now, it's more as additional documents that we can follow and include to the urban planning process. But if, for example, the country from the European Union, is it required by the law and governmental to strictly follow it?
Good.
Take these 3 first.
Yeah, and I see also a question in the chat by Anastasia. So maybe somebody can try to talk
Yeah.
with her in the chat. I'll take these 3 first. Thank you. Maybe go from last to first. I don't know why. Vladislav, is it required? Is it mandatory? No. It's inspirational. It's really helpful. It gives you methodology. It gives you an approach. It's not written by law how you exactly should do it, but it's very helpful for all the people who work on it to work in the same way, to speak the same language in a way, and to work in a similar background. And it's also like a large checklist. Does Ukraine have to follow it to become part of the EU? No. Will it be very helpful to use that knowledge and to integrate those approaches in some Ukrainian legislation? Generally, yes, but not too strict. It's not exact guidelines that you have to follow everything. Yeah. Dominique, yeah, we have a lot of things that we did about participation, and we made this handbook together with the American Planning Association. We made in pretty much every project we had participatory sessions, and especially when we're talking about neighborhoods or cities on a larger scale, this question becomes more and more prominent. Not in the first year after full-scale invasion, but the last year, absolutely. It's also always a discussion with the municipality. How do they look at their people who left, and how do they look at the new people who came? Usually in every municipality, there's 3 different groups. There is the group of people who were there and stayed there, people who left, and people who came there for the first time. I would definitely want to include them all in the decision making, in the planning, in the structure, but maybe there is a difference in formal advisory role. But it's not something that is written in any law. It's not something that is decided anywhere, and you can look at it from different perspectives. But for me, it makes sense to say, okay, the people who stayed and the people who are there, they have a crucial role. They are also usually the majority. They have a crucial position. They know the history. They know during wartime, and they want to stay afterwards as well. That's quite clear. That's the base group. But the other groups, you want to hear their opinion as well. You want to hear their vision as well. And if you don't hear them, if you don't ask it, it might lead also to disruption, to complications. So it also makes sense to do it for me, because everything you can include. So if you ask the IDPs, what do you need? What do you think about this park? What do you feel that is about this planning? Whatever scale, whatever size, at least you have the information. Maybe it's not any different, but maybe it is. Maybe they bring something else that is important for them that you didn't think of, or that the municipality didn't think of. That is just nice to know. Yeah, you can even decide later, am I going to include that or not? The the complicated thing for the people who went to Europe, we expect that some people went to Europe and will come back and with all the energy that they have, and maybe sometimes even money that they have, they come back and say, oh, I've seen this in Italy, I've seen this in the Netherlands, I see this in France, and I want to include this now in my village, Nijin, or whatever. And the people in Nijin, where were you the last 4 years? And you come back with those European ideas, and why? And why is this the most important? We have other problems. So the risk of that not understanding each other is quite big. For this, I strongly recommend not to say, no, you should not join. They should join, but they should be, the dialogue should be moderated, and it should be very carefully prepared with the different groups, first individually and then as a combined group. This is the best that I can think of right now, Dominique. So I like the question. We don't have the practical experience there yet, of course, because there's not large groups that have returned. But I think it is interesting to let's say, test it in some area, some project or something, how that different groups, how they can work together, and how you can really use all the energy, knowledge, empowerment, and also the involvement all those three groups have in their own way, how you use them as good as possible. I hope it makes sense. And then the social technical example, the connection between them. Yeah, I gave one example during the lecture as an example. Okay, how can you use something on energy, use that as a new economic factor, and that can also be job creation, and that can also be then good for maybe for some people who get new skills and therefore less social problems. But I can think of other examples as well. If you're making a new technical let's give an interesting. Okay, there's a park and it needs to be maintained, and you see that the maintenance of the trees is very often happening, or let's cut them off at 10 meters plus. That reduces the shade, that reduces therefore the quality of that park, but it also gives more stress for people. Because there's not enough shade, the average temperature of that area can suddenly increase with 5 degrees or something. It's really high differences when you have trees or no trees. So then because of that, because of a simple financial, which I call financial, so it's also a technical solution in maintenance of the trees, then suddenly the quality of life and the mental and social aspects of heat and quality of shade in the summer, it reduces. Next step is that they will not go out anymore, they will not meet anymore, they will not they are faster stressed. So the very hot cities, and Ukraine can be really hot in summer, very hot cities are more stressful, less productive, less social. So the maintenance of a park and the trees and the quality of the trees, the places where people can sit in the shade, talk to each other, is crucial for the quality of life. And it's often not seen. It's very often just seen as budgeting. It's very often just seen as, do we have enough money, or who is the cheapest that can do the maintenance? No, it is a quality of life thing, in my opinion. And then their social and technical comes together. Or where I said the topic of what do people miss? People miss culture. People really miss culture when they say about when these IDPs, when they were saying, okay, I miss those events. Do we have enough spaces for events? Do we have safe spaces for events where people can meet, when people can think about their identity, where people can discuss cultural issues? Somebody is playing a theater play or making some music, and afterwards the people still meet and they bond, they are working together. Those places where you can organize a safe theater or a safe music place in the shelter, I mean, that is that is now in Ukraine going on. In Kharkiv, they built this theater, right, in the new cultural venue during the war last year. In Mykolaiv, in the very first months, they were making those very small cultural places for children, so that they would just have some fun and relax a little bit and de-stress a little bit. So those suddenly a shelter where you have to calculate how much concrete you have and how much steel you have to use to keep the bombs out. It's also the place that gives you some kind of light and some kind of inspiration and some kind of identity and feeling of unity. And I think that's where social, technical aspects can come together. And if we brainstorm a little bit more, we have multiple of those solutions where you can hopefully combine budgets as well, combine people, combine budgets, combine ideas, and you can optimize your work. I hope, Borislav, that this was an answer that you that helps you.
Then maybe the last question also to have Olena off the hook at some point before you are is Solomia Tkach in the chat. So it's about DNA that might change over time. How to combine authenticity with modernization. What approaches do you use in practice to determine that?
Yeah. Very, very good question. I give an example for the city where I studied in the Netherlands, and that was very often an example that also was that I used when I was working in cities in the east of Ukraine. It was an industrial city. It's the city Eindhoven, and it's the city which was founded by Philips, this electrical household engineering thing. So they have music systems and hair dryers and I don't know, very important stuff. The Philips was really big. It's a really big company, and actually everybody or 80% of the people who were living in Eindhoven were working there as well. And in 30, 40 years ago, the Philips was not going that well. It was part of the global economy. It was changing. More and more went to Asia. And the factories closed, moved to other countries. And the company still exists, but not in the same way as it was for Eindhoven. So factories were empty. Many lower educated people were without jobs. What was this city now actually? And there was a lot of discussion in the city about our DNA and our because it was very gray. Everybody was talking about Eindhoven as the most gray city, and it was a little bit polluted. Not like some of the areas where they had mines, but it was still the ground was polluted, and it was poor also, and actually they were more and more like, I wish we were a city like Maastricht or a city like Den Bosch. It was nearby cities, a little bit like how the city of, how to explain it in Ukrainian terms, how the city of Zaporizhia can be very jealous of Lviv. Not because of East versus West, but because of some kind of historical building, some kind of coziness, some kind of friendly feeling, and everybody's like, oh, we should build something like that coziness. We should build something historical. I don't believe that you can build something now that represents something of 400 years ago. I think few people tried it in the past, but I don't think it really works. It's never really true. So at a certain moment, there was this artist, and it was really an artist, very creative, free mind. And he said, look at that beautiful factory building in the middle of town. And everybody said, beautiful factory building? I don't know any beautiful factory building in the middle of town. Yeah, it's there. It was a huge building, really, really huge, and everybody was just trying to avoid looking at it, always trying to avoid looking at it. It was one big bunk of concrete. And he said, no, it's beautiful. Look at it. It's strong. Yeah, it's gray, but if we paint it a little bit, it might be white. It used to be white, actually. I find out on these old historical pictures, it used to be white. And if we place new windows in there, the windows are actually beautifully big. It's not like holes in the concrete. It's views to the rest of the city. And if we use the space, look at how much space there is. And he was started to activate that building in words. He was just telling the story about how important. And then he said, oh no, it's not only that it was white, it was also the first building in the city center. The first big factory building in the city center that Philips built. So it is also has this historical meaning. And then suddenly the DNA of the city, which was always there for 100 years already, it was neglected because it wasn't going that well, and it wasn't going in the way it used to go. But some artists said, but it's still our DNA. We just have to rethink how that building can also be our future. That building became the symbol of the redevelopment of the city in the 90s. They put in artists there, they put in a library, they put in restaurants there, they put in the Academy of Design there. So everything was suddenly in this building, and one of the biggest architects in the city was making the design, and so it was really activated and really made beautiful. The DNA didn't change. The DNA of the city didn't change because there were still technical people in there. It was still a technical approached building. So the whole design wasn't like all those many small details and coziness. No, it was still this concrete strong building. But it was updated to the new context in terms of economy, in terms of people. There was new youth, new younger people coming in. So it was updated, built upon the old structures that was there and the old heritage that was there. So there was also a Philips department, the Philips design department. So they made the design of the different video recorders or cameras or whatever, and they were housed in that building itself, and as one small part of that huge factory building. So talking about the DNA that changes, yes, but it always builds onwards. That's my my approach. If not, then probably the description of the DNA is not precise enough yet, I would say it like that. Or yeah, you should tweak it, look at it more closely. And that's how I usually try to look at it. So Mia, I hope that answers your questions. And how do you use it? How to determine it? Yeah, many ways. So there's many tools for this. Determine a DNA. There's talks, there's dialogues, there's scraping Facebook. You can use ChatGPT for it. You can use many different ways how to get the DNA out of it. But in the end, it's really crazy. When I do it like that, it starts with a room full of books and videos and films and understandings and interviews and whatever you can think of, information. And you just start looking at more and more, what are the words that are constantly used? What are the pictures there, the colors that are constantly used? What smell? What is the essence of this city or this neighborhood? And in the end, there's 5 words. It's always ends with 5 words, maybe 6. And 5 pictures that accompany that word. So it's always like that. And you can analyze it, but you should discuss it. I can never do it my own. I use all the different tools that I have, and if I have a lot of time and therefore also money, then yeah, you do it wider. But if you have to do it, you can also do it quick and dirty, and then you say, okay, let's take the 10 most important sources or 5 and use 20 interviews, and then we pick out all the words that are mentioned more than 3 times, and then you already have the first picture of the identity of the DNA of this city. The most difficult here, I say it quite easily, what are the questions that you're asking? So what are an interview is only relevant if you ask the right question. Now that is what we can learn also in module 3 a little bit, or we can exercise, you can learn together. I hope it makes sense, but I see Solomia a little bit smiling, so let's assume it was kind of an answer to the question.
Thank you, Fulco. Thank you so much for kicking off this program with this super inspiring talk. And I could really see it indeed from faces, but also reactions in the chat, that it was inspiring indeed. So to all, this is like how it works, more or less. So this time a little bit longer because of the introduction. You will get input, and from now on, you will have to do a lot yourselves. This is also the part where Olena, after a few seconds, will leave us, and we meet in meeting rooms. And since I'm a technical, like two left hands, Lisa will explain how that works. So we will each go to a different breakout room, and in the end, like I would say half an hour before the very end, we will reconnect here. Talk a little bit of what we did in those three breakout rooms, and get into some of indeed what we then call homework or things to work on, and a little look out into the next week, like who is the speaker of next week and things like that.